Welcome to Slash Bash, where today I am bringing you another malicious compliance Reddit video. In our first story, so about all these purchase orders, let's jump right in. Okay, so the scene is this. It's 1990. I am in college pursuing a computer science degree. For various personal reasons, I am getting burned out and leave during my senior year and decide to get a job. It's probably worth noting that in many areas then, the demand for computer professionals was so high that a lot of places didn't care if there wasn't a degree. There was a massive shortage of people, so it didn't take me long to land a job. It was at a factory that made hydraulic equipment. There were about 50 office workers there, mostly engineers, accounting, HR, the dock office, plant management, and the various support staff for those positions. This is where almost all of the computers were. It's probably useful to explain that there was no IT department at all. I was the only IT person for the whole place. After I started there, it was explained to me that I wouldn't be getting a computer. What the flip? The reason was this. At the time, it was a status symbol for managers to have a computer on their desks, and most of them never used it. Corporate wanted to encourage the managers to send those computers to their staffs who would actually use them, but they didn't want to lose their symbols. So you'd have a manager with a computer and 4 or so people under him sharing one PC. Anyway, as there was no IT department, they put me in the accounting department for lack of anywhere else. Now, while we weren't allowed to purchase new computers, we were allowed to repair broken ones, and that was part of my job. Failed hard or floppy drive or monitor or power supply or whatever. When I needed a part, I'd grab the latest issue of Computer Shopper. Tech people of my generation know it well, but for those who don't, it was basically a big magazine with ads for computers and computer parts. And it was enormous, hundreds of pages every issue. So one day, I'm in my office. Yes, I had an office with a desk, phone, door I could close, just no computer. And the payroll clerk walks in. We will call her Claudia. Claudia points to the magazine and asks if that's where I order the parts from. I said yes. She then asks if it would be possible to build a functioning computer from the various parts. I said sure, that's not a big deal. She then asks if any of the components cost more than $250. That immediately got my attention because of the company's purchase order policy. Basically, every manager had the power to authorize any single purchase order up to $250. Anything more had to go to the plant manager. I sensed she was up to something, but I answered honestly, no, none of them do. She asked me if I could make up a list for her of the parts that would be needed. Maybe she was cooking something up with our boss. Anyway, I said sure, and that afternoon, I presented her with the list she was asking for, grouped so that no single purchase cost more than $250. The next day, the accounting manager calls me into his office. He has a stack of paper and says he needs to talk to me about them. I have no idea what he's talking about. I take a look, they're all purchase orders for the equipment I spec'd out, with my name as the requester. Claudia didn't put her name on it, she put mine on them and didn't tell me. The boss says, "What is all this about?" So look, if you're still reading this, if you take nothing more away from this story, remember this. Never, ever, ever throw the payroll clerk under the bus. I successfully make my wisdom check and lean full into this fiction. I thought it would be a good idea to have some spare parts on hand in case of a failure, so that I can fix it in hours instead of days. The boss looks at the paperwork. Motherboard, case, power supply, memory, monitor, hard drive, floppy drive. That's a lot of stuff. I tell him that if I have a wide selection of parts, I'll be ready for any eventuality. He says, "It seems to me that you could actually construct a new computer out of all of this." I say, "That's a really good idea. If I do that, I can verify that every part is functional before I need to use it in a repair. He scribbles something on the top purchase order and hands the stack back to me. I won't be approving this. You can go. I walk out of his office wondering if I got in trouble until I glance at the stack. What he had scribbled was, "Nice try, Claudia." He was never fooled. I dropped the stack off on her desk as I went back to mine. A few months later, I got a better job at a place that decided its IT staff would be able to do a better job if they had access to a computer. Story number 2. If you won't stand up for your subordinate, enjoy going home late. This happened about 10 to 12 years ago. I was a corporal in the Marines at the time, MOS 6469 for the military types, aviation electronics repair tech for the non-military types. I worked night shift in a 3-shift shop, and myself and the sergeant, my direct superior, let's call him Sergeant K, were the quality assurance for the shift. Third shift also had a corporal and sergeant quality assurance pair running their shift. Now, for those of you who don't know, tools are a big freaking deal in the aviation world. One lost tool or missing part of a tool can down an entire squadron, as it can cause serious damage to an aircraft. Even if no one dies or gets injured, no one wants to be the one to explain why a bunch of taxpayer money is down the drain. So, your shop quality assurance reps have to verify all the tools are accounted for every shift change, after every maintenance action, or even if the tech working needs to take a break to go to the bathroom. Well, on a night like any other, one of my techs broke a tool. We found every piece, wrote up the appropriate paperwork, and left a pass down for day crew to take care of it, as the head quality assurance shop and tool shop didn't run a night crew. Since we found everything, not a huge deal. Stuff happens. Well, the third shift corporal comes in and we start taking stock of the tools. We were a fairly large shop, somewhere between 12 to 15 large toolboxes. Now, naval aviation maintenance is full of procedures that, if performed by the book, they would take so long that no actual work would ever get done. This tool check was one such thing. Generally, we just made sure all the tools were where they were supposed to be, and every multi-piece tool had every piece. Usually took us 20 to 25 minutes max. We start the tool check. He notices the broken tool is not in its toolbox. I tell him I'll give him a full rundown once we're done and we continue on. By the time we finish, his sergeant, let's call him Sergeant dbag, as I never got along with him anyway, is there waiting with Sergeant K and the broken tool. "Corporal third shift, what's going on with this?" "Actually, Sergeant, I was about to explain. I wasn't flipping asking you." "I don't know, he hasn't." "Do tool check again then, by the book this time." I looked at Sergeant K. He and I usually got along well, and I knew he wasn't fond of Sergeant dbag either, but he just shrugged. I could tell this was going to be one of those leadership shows solidarity moments. All right then, game on. I walked away and told every tech from both shifts to stop what they were doing. No work would be done until tool check was completed. Also, go into our computer-based maintenance tracking system and put everything awaiting work. If production control called to ask, tell them that we can't work until tool check is done to the satisfaction of Sergeant dbag. We had items that aircraft could not fly without, so this was a big problem. Also, no one leaves until we are done to make sure no one accidentally takes a tool home. We took every tool out, inspected each one for corrosion and damage, verified it was marked properly, and verified each multi-piece tool had all its parts, and each part was marked accordingly. By the book tool check. It took us 4 hours. Did I mention Sergeant K had an hour-long commute to get home? When we finally finished at about 4 a.m., I informed Sergeant K that was how I would do tool check from then on, including with day crew, which is when the staff sergeants and gunnery sergeant he reported to worked. He showed up for day crew before me the next few days and did tool check himself, but for the weeks after, I did the same exact thing with third shift every day. Both sergeants finally came to me on the last day. Sergeant dbag because he was tired of dealing with production control on his case, and Sergeant K because his wife was pissed he wasn't getting home until 5 a.m., and not so much apologized as said they wouldn't be bothering me about tool check anymore. Sergeant K and I got along great after that. Sergeant dbag got orders shortly thereafter to go to another base. Last I heard, he had been demoted back to corporal for something, then got out and started his own business. He actually made minor national news somewhat recently and still seemed to be the same dbag he was, so take that as you will. This is John from /bash. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video and want to be the first to know when the next one drops, subscribe and click on that notifications bell. We'd love for you to drop a like, share it with your friends, and we will see you in the next one.